Greetings, Lewis, and welcome to another video. So, throughout the history of this game, Union monsters have been a very important part of the game. We've had Union monsters be competitively viable once or twice in the past era. The last iteration that we saw Unions being relevant was ABC, which was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to say 2016. Somebody can correct me on that. But uh, today we got revealed a few new wave of Union support monsters. These are coming in the light structure. I mean, in the light duelist set, alongside the Tachyons and the Trap and the Trickstar monsters. For those who don't know, these are Kaiba's cards. Like the XYZ, ABC, all that like iteration are from Kaiba. The exception to the rule are the VWs, which are like from Chaz Princeton. So mainly V Tiger Catapult and the Catapult Cannon. These are from the GX. These are from the GX era, while the others are from like the Kaiba's era. So we've got revealed three main deck monsters, two fusion monsters, and one spell card. Uh, I guess we'll talk a little bit about them, and then we'll talk about the intended purpose behind these cards, and then we'll talk about like how splashable can these cards be. The first card we'll talk about is X Cross Cannon. This card reads: if you control a light machine, fusion, or union monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. During your main phase, you can equip one appropriate light machine union monster from your deck to this card as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. You cannot special summon from the extra for the rest of the turn except light monsters. You can only use this effect once per turn. So the first thing we need to talk about this card is I think no matter what union deck you're playing, it could be this new one, it could be ABC, it could be like the VXW cannon deck. This card is pretty much a staple. For starter, this is both a starter and an extender. Basically, if you already control a light machine like Fusion or Union, you can just special summon this card for free. And adding to that, you can equip anything from your deck. It could be X, Y, it could be like A, B, and C. You can even equip Union Driver and just banish the Union Driver and have Union Driver become another monster. Banishing Union Driver is going to become more relevant when we read the other two cards. But yeah, basically you can just grab any of them and just equip it to this card. And this does not have the restriction of like making the cards not being able to be summoned. This card does not work like Union Hanger. If you remember Union Hanger, you had the ability to equip from your deck, but you could not unequip to special summon. This doesn't have that restriction. The only restriction is that it's locking you out of the extra except for light monsters. This restriction does not matter at all. Like if you've been paying attention to the game, you've already know that we have two really powerful engines in the game that are light attribute. One of them being Fiendsmith, and the other one being Melodious. Melodious already saw success in the last YCS here in the TCG, while Fiendsmith is already overtaking the OCG as a primary engine for a lot of decks, and these are both light attribute focused. So there's nothing stopping you from playing both these engines in this deck. And that's really strong because those are really two powerful engines, as I mentioned beforehand. So just having a monster that can be as an extender and a starter at the cost of just restricting you from into light attribute is already strong enough on its own. So now that we read this card, let's go to the next one. This is White Dragon Earhead. Basically a retrain of White Dragon Head. So if this card special summoned, you can equip one level 4 light machine monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except light monsters. Again, that restriction does not matter. It's interesting that it says you can equip any level 4 light machine monster. It doesn't have to be a union. You can equip stuff like Inspector Border. You can equip stuff Cyber Dragon clone monsters. You can equip the X Cross Cannon to the Whitehead as well. So very very interesting. So once per turn, since this is a union, it has the union clause. Basically, you can either equip or special summon itself. All union monsters have this. Well, at least 90% of them already have this, so that's nothing new. But this is already very interesting because one thing you can do is like summon X Cross. X Cross can equip Earhead. Then you can special summon the Earhead from being equipped, and then the Earhead can bring back another monster, or can bring another monster. So that's already like 3 bodies in one card. Let's read the Zillion tank. If this card special summon, you can equip one of your banished level 4 uh, light machine monsters. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except for light monsters. Once per turn, you can pretty much the Union clause. So this equips from banished, and this kind of already tells you what Konami's game plan is. Their game plan is for you to already set up for ABC or for another union that doesn't involve Zillion, and then use Zillion to bring back whatever like you banished for that union or for that fusion monster, and then just keep combo extending. With this, you cannot pretty much cover all your bases. This equips from deck, this specials from graveyard or from your hand, this summons from banished. So basically, they made it so you can toolbox monsters from any zone, like pretty much almost everywhere, unless they're banished face down. Like I said beforehand, you already had a plethora of other union monsters, so just having the ability to just grab all those other monsters and just do something with them is already really strong. Uh, rem- just a reminder, we do have union monsters that have different utilities. We have like level 3 monsters, level 2 monsters. Torque Tune Gear is an interesting one because it is a tuner and it's level 1. So uh, that's just to say that there are like many other possibilities. Let's go with the first fusion monster. This is Union Controller. So the materials for this card are one light machine monster, and the other materials are Y and Z. It's interesting that they allow you to use any light machine monster. Yeah, you are allowed into cards like Cyber Dragon, which is another really good example of this. You are allowed into equipping like using Inspector Border as an example, using cards like that. Must first be special summon from the extra deck, banishing the above materials. You can only use the following effects once per turn. If this card is special summon from the extra deck, you can add a spell or trap from deck to your hand that mentions Union monster in its effect. We'll get to that in a moment. Once per turn during your main phase, you can special summon one light machine, normal or union monster from your hand. So this card is also phenomenal. Essentially, what this card does is that you can use Y or Z or both, and just to summon this card. and then use this card to just combo extend into your other Union monsters. And since this is already a fusion monster, you can special summon like the X Cross Cannon already from your hand. Uh, since this banishes for its summon, you can basically like special X, equip Z, special Z, then Z grab something back, like for example a Y that was used for Union controller. So I'd say this is a phenomenal card. It is very interesting on how its mechanic works. This card is basically just meant to combo extend. We might see like other light machine like monsters just be paired with this. I wouldn't be surprised if people just cook up like a Cyber Dragon variant that just works with these cards. Now let's go to the last one. XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon. So its materials are um, X Cross Cannon, White Dragon Earhead, and Zillion Tank. So it's specifically those three. It is a level 9 Light Machine Union monster. Must first be a special summon from the extra deck. Pretty much the same as ABC Dragon Buster. Banishing the above cards from the field graveyard. Yep, pretty much ABC Dragon Buster. Once per turn, during opponent's turn, you can discard a card, then target one card your opponent control, destroy it. You can banish this card from your field or your graveyard, reveal one level 8 Light Machine Fusion monster from your extra deck, special summon up to 3 materials whose name are mentioned on it from your graveyard and or banishment. So essentially what this card is meant to be used for is to tutor out your other Light Machine monsters, like the Catapult Cannon, like ABC Dragon Buster, like all these other guys. The only real issue like on this card is that you already require setup in order to use this card efficiently. This is level 9, so you cannot reveal itself and bring back XYZ, at least the newer XYZ. Popping discarding to pop one card is not as strong as like ABC Dragon Buster's banishing effect. However, they are making it so it's pretty much reminiscent of XYZ Dragon Cannon because XYZ Dragon Cannon works the same way. So basically, this is just a retrain of that. Uh, Being able to banish itself from the graveyard to just tutor out like monsters that are Union monsters is also really strong. So let's say for example you are very close to your ABC setup, but you're missing like one or two materials. And let's say you have like B and C already in your graveyard. You can banish this card, reveal ABC Dragon Buster, and then special summon both B and C. Like so. And let's say you have like any other Union monster in your hand, and but you're still missing the A. So for Buster, you can link away these two, and then just go C and B. You have to have a legal target in order to do this chain. But if you do C and B, basically your B will add, and then your C will summon, and that can get you to like your last letter, like the Assault Core, and that just facilitates the summon for Hyper Dragon Cannon. So now that we read the main monsters, let's read the spell card. So this is Union activation. This card reads, send one light machine normal or Union monster from your hand and or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, add one light machine monster from your deck to your hand with the same attack but a different original name. If you special summon 3 light machine monsters at the same time while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, add one monster with 3000 or more attack from your deck to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one monster. You can only use each effect of unit activation once per turn. So this card is incredibly strong. This card is very phenomenal. Uh, if you recognize ABC in the past, you already know that Union Hanger was a way to facilitate like the boss monster summons and just get your engine into rotation with all your Union monsters. This card pretty much just covers every basis that you're missing. Let's say, for example, you want to add X Cross Cannon to your hand. Well, you can do what you can do is just send to the graveyard X Head Cannon, or send any other light machine that has 1800 attack, and then just grab the X Cross Cannon. You can essentially do the same thing, like with, for example, Y, because Y shares the same attack as like B Buster Drake, as well as like the Zillion tank. So this card is very phenomenal if you're playing like the different hybrids. Like let's say for example you're playing ABC and you're mixing it with these three guys. What this card helps you with is that it both sets up for ABC and it sets up for these cards. The last effect, which is the most interesting one, like adding a monster 3000 more attack for the turn hand, then normal summon one monster. Take note, this can normal summon any monster. It doesn't have to be what you're adding with this effect. This the purpose behind this card was pretty much made so you can just summon Obelisk, because this is a Kaiba themed deck, and like Kaiba in the series will just try to use the separate materials from the XYZ Dragon Cannon to just facilitate the summon of Obelisk, because it would needed three monsters. So essentially, this card was made for that. However, there is a list of cards that we can also summon with the activation, or we can just use. For example, we can just add Nibiru into our hand, and then use the Union activation to just summon something else and keep our Nibiru in hand. So in your opponent's turn, when you're like dismounting your like ABC Dragon Buster, for example, you can banish activation, you can add, and then you can summon. There are a lot of monsters in the game with over 3000 attack. Like, pretty much the possibilities are endless. But I pretty much just separated the ones that would impact the most out of their own normal summon. One good example of this would be like Phoenix Gearfried. Like, if you have a way to equip a card to Phoenix Gearfried, this becomes pretty much a monster negate. You have like Metaltron, which is like pretty much a boss monster in itself. And if this gets rid of, you can special summon from your extra deck. You can summon comes from a Dark Destroyer because it has exactly 3k attack. You can summon the Shadowfire Monarch. This is the only Monarch monster that we have in the game with 3000 attack. So essentially, you can use this as Monarch fodder. Now let's talk about them a little bit more interesting cards. One interesting card that came out across was Dark Lord Morningstar. So if you decide to ever play Dark Lords as part of your strategy or part of your engine, you can pretty much just summon Morningstar, and Morningstar can just summon as many other monsters from the deck, equal to the amount of monsters your opponent controls. So if your opponent is spamming the board and you just want something to like capitalize on their card advantage, Morningstar is a very ideal one. Another tricky one would be Sumuha, the Lord of Swords. This card, if I'm not mistaken, came out in Photon Hypernova. I could be wrong on that. Uh, I think it came out. If it wasn't Photon Hypernova, I think it was Cyberstorm Access. I think it was Cyberstorm Access. So this is another boss monster that you can just normal summon, and since it's a spirit monster, you cannot special summon it. So pretty much that spell is like your way to go with this card. During the end phase that this effect was activated, you can shuffle all cards into the deck from field, graveyard, or banished, and banish. And this is kind of interesting because uh, the union activation can be done on any phase as long as the three summons occur. So there's nothing stopping you from just like, for example, uh, dismounting ABC Dragon Buster during the end phase, just summoning all the monsters, and then just end up summoning the Tsunagi monster, and then just pretty much put your opponent in a position where have an open field for you to capitalize on next turn. Uh, Another very interesting one would be Arcana Force 21. So essentially, what this monster does is that if you win at the coin toss upon this card summon, this card pretty much just ends your opponent's turn. And since you're pretty much tagging out your monster, like for example ABC Buster, in your opponent's turn, you can pretty much just summon this during your opponent's turn, catch them off guard, and if they don't have specific board breakers or specific gates for this card, you can just pretty much just end their turn and just start over, and then like play from there. But yeah, uh, I hope you found these uh like cards very interesting. Like I said, the light restriction on these cards do not matter. Like you pretty much have like a lot of options. I guess one thing we haven't talked about is that with Hyper Dragon Cannon, you can reveal Cyber Twin Dragon, and that like reborns multiple Cyber Dragons. Just to give an example, so Cyber Dragon can be mixed with this deck. Melodious can also be mixed with this. Fiendsmith it can also be mixed. This I think this is the great start of a really good experiment, and eventually we'll see it flourish here in like the TCG or the OCG. But yeah, I hope you found this informative to your like and understanding. More videos coming soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.